Hello there, I'm Kios, the Ronin Beatmaker, and welcome to Lounge Ronin, all things, everything. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And on this episode, we're going to discuss the alchemical creation of a homunculus. Now, with all things, everything, I implore you to please do your own research, as you may be surprised at what you discover about yourself and the world. So, without further ado,
Hello
let's get
there,
into
I'm
it.
Kios, Ronin Beatmaker.
And welcome to Ronin Art and Music, home to Ronin Music, Lounge Ronin, all things, everything, the Monday Mindset, Rants, and Ronin Reviews. We strive to make holistic and authentic content that aims to improve your individuality, mental fortitude, and peace of mind. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love. Now, back to the show. Alrighty, here we go. This article was updated March 15th, 2019. Homunculus, the alchemical creation of little people with great power. Although science has made much progress in the last century, there are still numerous ethical issues that need to be addressed by the scientific community. You got that one right. One such issue is that of the creation of artificial life. For some, this is the logical progress of scientific knowledge. For others, this is a realm that should not be intruded by human beings. Concepts relating to the creation of artificial life, such as genetic engineering and human cloning, have a relatively modern scientific ideas. In the past, however, it was a field of alchemy that the medieval scientists sought to artificially create life, one of that beings. One of the beings that alchemists were purportedly able to create was the homunculus, meaning little man in Latin. The homunculus is first referred to in the alchemical writings in the 16th century. It is likely, however, that this concept is older than these writings. The idea that miniature fully formed people can be created has been traced to the early Middle Ages, 400 to 1000 AD, and is partly based on the Aristotelian belief that the sperm is greater than the ovum in its contribution to the production of offspring. Don't tell that to the feminists. Here we have a alchemical illustration of a homunculus in a vial. The first known account of the production of the homunculus is said to be found in an undated Arabic work called the Book of the Cow, purportedly written by the Greek philosopher Plato himself. The materials required for the creation of the homunculus included human semen, a cow, an ewe, and an animal blood, whilst the process includes the artificial insemination of the cow and the ewe, smearing the inseminated animal's genitals with the blood of another animal and feeding it exclusively on the blood of another animal. Kinky. The pregnant animal would eventually give birth to the unformed substance, which would then be places in a powder made of ground sunstone, a mystical phosphorescent elixir, sulfur magnet green tudia, a sulfate of iron, and the sap of a white willow. When the blob starts growing human skin, it would be required to be placed in a large glass or lead container for 3 days. After that, it has to be fed with the blood of its decapitated mother for 7 days before becoming a fully formed homunculus. Here we have an illustration of a tiny person inside a sperm as drawn by N. Hartsoker in 1695. In the Book of the Cow, there are two similar procedures for producing the homunculus. Instead of a cow or a ewe, a female monkey is used in one, and an unidentified female animal in another. Additionally, different ingredients are used for the powder, and the incubation period of the blob in the vessel is extended to 40 days. All three types of homunculus have their own specific functions. The first type of homunculus may be used to make the full moon appear on the last day of the month, allow a person to take the form of a cow, a sheep, or even an ape, allow one to walk on water, and know things that are happening far away. The second type of homunculus can be used to enable a person to see demons and spirits, as well as to converse with them, whilst the last type of homunculus can be used to summon rain at unseasonable times and produce extremely poisonous snakes. Here we have a 19th century illustration, engraving of Goa's Foss and a homunculus. The 16th century alchemist Philip von Hohenheim, known as the Paracelsus, provides a different receipt for creating a homunculus in his works, De Natura Reum. The recipe uses a horse as the surrogate mother of the homunculus, and the semen of a man is left inside the animal's womb to purify for 40 days before a little man is born. Rather than using the homunculus to perform magical feats, Paracelsus instructs the homunculus out to be educated with the greatest care and zeal until it grows up and begins to display intelligence. Paracelsus also claimed that the procedure of making the homunculus is one of the greatest secrets revealed by God to mortals, perhaps suggesting that the creation of artificial life is divine wisdom that may be used by human beings. Scientists today dismiss the work prescribed by the Book of Crow and Paracelsus De Natura Reum as mere fantasy, while others suggest the writing was intended to be taken symbolically rather than literally, and contains hidden messages regarding the process of spiritual ascension. Nevertheless, the goal of producing the homunculus, i.e., the creation of artificial life, is a quest that some are still pursuing today. You got that right, Pablo. Now, let's be real here. What are clones? What was the sheep that was cloned? Mary? What was her name? I don't remember her name. But you have that clone of the sheep. What else do you have? You have the I mean, when we're cloning even embryo cells and the outside of them, that's homunculus creations. I know they like to joke around and say, "Oh, we're not cloning, we're not doing any cloning," but I don't know if y'all have been paying attention to Biden the last couple of years and hell, the last couple of months, and either they're out there rolling out some, I don't know, lackluster clones that haven't been fully developed, or them androids just ain't fully updated. Either way, it's a homunculus in and of itself. Just the process is a little different nowadays. You can say using semen to artificially inseminate it to create a living homunculus is artificial creature. It's no different than creating an android. The semen for the android is the code, and the man creates the code. Just something to think about. But let's continue on our light dive into the homunculus creation. All right, this article was updated April 2nd, 2018 by Caleb Strom. The alchemical receipt for a homunculus. Sperm plus rotting meat equals mini artificial human. The question of how to create life does not just go by to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, when the eponymous character used forbidden science to create life. Humans have been interested in creating artificial life since at least the classical antiquity, and probably much earlier. One manifestation of this idea of the homunculus, a diminutive humanoid creature that was believed to be created through magical means. The history of the idea of the homunculus combines many topics. It is related to early medical theories about reproduction and gestation, early ideas about spontaneous generation and the origin of life, and even the modern fabrics of genetic engineering and cybernetics. What was I saying? Ronin don't miss. No egg evolved. No egg involved. In Renaissance medicine, excuse me, in Renaissance medicine, it is believed that the main life-giving force in reproduction came from the man in the form of semen. The womb was believed to be simply a warm, nutrient-rich vessel for the embryo to grow and be nourished through the womb was believed to provide the raw materials needed to make an adult. Well, I mean that's technically true, right? I mean, no disrespect on women, but that's technically true. I don't see that's anything wrong there. Let's continue. The raw material which the fetus used to mature were considered important in determining what kind of individual the person would become. The idea that semen is the main ingredient needed to produce life in the womb and that the womb is just a passive vessel goes back to Aristotle, who was considered the primary authority on natural science in the medieval and late classical worlds. The womb could be replaced by a warm chamber. Aristotle did not believe that humans could be artificially made outside of the natural mode of sexual reproduction and childbirth, but his ideas did leave open such a possibility. If the human womb was only a vessel for the fetus, then it could be theoretically exchanged with another vessel provided that human semen was used. Other than the sperm, it is what it was thought that all that was needed was a warm chamber and some sort of raw material which could even be rotting meat. These early ideas about human reproduction have long since been discredited, but they made the creation of the homunculus seem as plausible during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance as cloning is today. Spontaneous generation. Another idea that made the creation of homunculus seem credible was spontaneous generation. Classical, medieval, and Renaissance philosophers all believed that simple creatures like flies, frogs, and mice could spontaneously arise from inert matter. Flies, for example, were believed to be spontaneously formed on rotting meat. The idea of the homunculus spontaneously emerging from inert matter with the addition of semen is very similar to the idea of spontaneous generation, which made the idea more acceptable to mainstream science of the day. The homunculus receipts. By the early Middle Ages, alchemists and philosophers had begun to compel receipts for making a homunculus. One receipt described in a text called the Book of the Cow tells of an elaborate process where a female animal, either a cow or a ewe, had to be artificially inseminated with a mixture of semen and a type of phosphorine mineral and then beheaded when the soon to be homunculus was born. After the homunculus was born, it was to be fed blood. Other receipts required a female monkey or a mare instead. The homunculus was believed to have supernatural powers as the ability to control the motion and appearance of the moon and allow humans to transform themselves into sheep and cows. Fluids from the body of the homunculus were believed to endow the maker of the homunculus with the ability to walk on water, among other supernatural abilities. One thing I find interesting is that these supernatural abilities seem to correlate with ideas within scripture or the abilities that Christ was capable of enacting. Just something to think about. Is it possible to channel Christ into our plane of existence and utilize his powers even for a moment? Just something to think about when it comes to these ideas of possession whether on purpose or by accident or by design. We live in strange times. Just something to keep in mind when you do your own research. Sperm plus rotting meat equals humanoid creature. One recipe proposed by the 15th century alchemist Paracelsus instructed the alchemist to artificially inseminate a horse and allow the semen to purify within the womb. He also believed that a homunculus could be created by simply putting sperm in a sealed container with materials such as rotting meat or even manure. His instructions, as provided in his text De Natura Reum, as are follows. Quote, let the sperm of a man be itself by purified in the ground glassy sealed up, with the highest degree of purification in horse dung, for the space of 40 days, or so long until it begin to be alive. Move and stir, which may easily be seen. After this time it will be something like a man, yet transparent and without a body. Now after this, if it be every day warily, and prudently nourished and fed with the acronym of man's blood, and be for the space of 40 weeks kept in a constant equal heat of horse dung, it will become a true and living infant, having all the members of an infant, which is born of a woman, but it will be far less. This we call homunculus, or artificial man, and this afterwards to be brought up to the great care and diligence as any other infant, until it come to riper years of understanding. Now this is one of the greatest secrets that God ever made known to mortal sinful man. For this is a miracle, and one of the great wonders of God, a secret above all secrets, and assuredly it ought to be kept amongst the secrets until the last times, when nothing shall be hid, the apocalypse, but all things made manifest. Paracalis, de natura reum, of the nature of things. End quote. Now, we find ourselves currently, some may say, in the age of the apocalypse, or the pre apocalypse, however you want to look at it. And can we not say that we find ourselves in a world that perhaps we are being led by a homunculus itself, that's being controlled by outside forces? I don't know. But I don't know. Things are starting to get really kinky out there. But we have to take into consideration the concept of, well, the Anunnaki and the creation of humankind. These ideas of a homunculus and the ideas of creation of life, they go hand in hand. Like anything in this world, it's all about your intent. Let's continue. Here we have an illustration of Paracelsus, who we will be covering next. An artificial human. Part of the idea of creating a homunculus was creating an artificial human, which makes it comparable to the Jewish tale of the golem, which could be created from dust by an especially righteous rabbi. There was an opposition by some leaders in the church to making the homunculi, since it was considered playing God, and because it thought wrong to create an intelligent human-like creature just to be a servant. Tell that to the slave traders and human traffickers. Homunculus ethics. In this way, the narrative of the homunculus mirrors modern debates about genetic engineering and cybernetics. Modern alchemists endeavored to make homunculi from genetic modification and cybernetics. Many objections to these modern enterprises are very similar objections to the creation of homunculi, particularly the debate whether homunculi could be considered full persons. Homunculi were considered powerful but to be limited intelligence and reasoning ability. Thus they were subhuman and could be enslaved. Not everyone agreed that homunculi were slaves by through nature, though, and some insisted that homunculi must have rational souls. These mirrors a similar debate today, namely how could genetically modified individuals and AIs be treated? Can they be equivalent to genetically baseline biological humans? Should they be given the same rights as humans? Do they have souls? The strange idea of the homunculus is surprisingly relevant today as the dreams of yesterday's alchemists. Artificial life become the real invention and creation of today's scientists and engineers. And I agree with that. Elon Musk out here with Gork, Google with Gemini, Meta with whatever it has. Are these no different than homunculi? Like I said, the semen is the code. The computer engineering and all of that, that is the womb. And what comes out is a somewhat intelligent with limited abilities and with limited capabilities. We use these various AIs, Midjourney, whatever it is, to do art, movies, papers, to get information. And sometimes it does a good job and sometimes it doesn't. But these are no different than a homunculi. The concept is there. It's just the mechanics are, well, bolts and lights and clockwork. Now let's continue to Pericolius, this kinky fellow. Now this article was updated September 24th, 2015. Pericolius, the bless you, Pablo, the father of toxicology and the enemy of physicians. Mm, sounds like House. Toxicology is a branch of knowledge dealing with the scientific study of the characteristics and effects of poisons on living organisms. The man considered to be the father of this discipline is Philippus Aurelius Theraphadius Bombastus von Hoyheimen, also known as Pericolius. Bro, what a name. Bombastus. I like it. It is said that Pericolius meant equal to Cellus, referring to the Roman encyclopedias alias Cornelius Cellus, and the change in his name was meant to be an indication of Pericolius' desire to rival ancient medical authorities such as Callias and Galen, following in his father's footsteps. Pericolius was born in 1493 in Eiseldidian Schwuchti, the old Swiss Confederacy, modern day Switzerland. Pericolius' father, Wilhelm Bombast von Vonheimen, was a Swabian nobleman said to have been born out of wedlock in an impoverished family of knights. Wilhelm was himself a physician and was mentioned by Pericolius to be one of the earliest teachers. When Pericolius' mother, Else Oshnar, died when he was just 9 years old, the father and son moved to Villach in Carthinia. By watching his father giving medical comfort and aid to visiting pilgrims, the young Pericolius developed a desire to emulate his father. Wilhelm also nurtured Pericolius' growing interest by teaching him the basics of medicine. Furthermore, Wilhelm gave his son herbs and stones and water and metals as friends and thus initiating him into the wonders of nature. Conflicting stories on Pericolius' further learning. Apart from his father, Pericolius was also taught by several bishops, including Edenhard Pumgathern, the bishop of Levant, and Matthias Schachet, the bishop of Freising. In addition, Pericolius studied alchemy under the occultist abbot of Sponheimen, Jones Tirithanius, at the age of 16. He began studying medicine at the University of Basel in Switzerland. According to one source, it was at Basel that Pericolius met and studied under the guidance of a wealthy physician, Sigismund Fugger. In 1516, however, Pericolius was forced to leave the city hurriedly as he ran into some problems with the authorities for his studies in necromancy. Oh Lord. I can't imagine why. According to another source, Fugger's laboratory was located in Schwach, Austria, rather than in Basel. Yet another source suggests that there was no proof that Paracelsus even took a degree in medicine. The plot thickens. The many travels of Paracelsus. The sources agree, nevertheless, that Paracelsus spent a long period of time wandering abroad. Paracelsus' travels took him to such countries as Germany, France, Hungary, and the Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden, and Russia. One source claims that whilst in Russia, Paracelsus was captured by the Tartars and brought to the court of the Grand Cham. Court favorite, and even accompanied the Cham's son on a diplomatic mission to Constantinople. It is his further claim by the source that in Constantinople the Arab adept impaired the secret of the universal solvent, the alkas, to Paracelsus. It is also said that Paracelsus attended many of the most important European universities during his travels and gained practical medical knowledge while serving as a surgeon in the camps of various mercenary armies. Fortunately for us, the records of Paracelsus' travels become clearer for the last 15 years of his life. In 1526, Paracelsus arrived in Strasbourg where he joined a guild of surgeons. In the same year, he returned to Basel to treat the leg ailment of Jonas Frobenius, a famed publisher. It has been suggested that thanks to Frobenius' influence, Paracelsus was appointed to the office of the city of physician of Basel, which entitled him to the lecture at the city's university. The Luther of the Physicians. It was his actions during this time that perhaps later earned Paracelsus the nickname the Luther of Physicians. Among his heretical actions were his opposition to revered Galileo-Arabic system, the burning of Aviania's writings in the public square, and his attack on the greed of Apothecarius. Those in authority came to hate him, and Paracelsus was soon expelled from the city. Again, boy, this. Oh man, he would have had a fire podcast, that's for sure. He would have been on Kick and Rumble. YouTube would have canceled him by now. Paracelsus began to wander around Europe yet another time, and eventually died in Salzburg in 1541. Here we have an illustration of him. Paracelsus' contributions to medicine. One of Paracelsus' contributions to the field of medicine was the idea that pathological changes were caused not only by internal factors, i.e., the four humors, but also by external factors. These included cosmic influences differing with climate and country, as well as toxic matter originating in food. Additionally, Paracelsus proposed that all natural substances have two types of influences, a helpful one and a harmful one, which were separated by means of alchemy. This led to one of Paracelsus' most famous adages, which is also the fundamental principle of classical toxicology. Alle Dinge sind Gift und nicht ist ohne Gift, allen de dois macht es, das ihn durch kein Gift ist. Meaning, all things are poison and nothing is without poison. Only the dose makes a thing not a poison. That has often been shortened to the dose makes the poison. And there you have it. Your light introduction into the alchemical creation of a homunculus. Now let's keep in mind that with such creations and such ideas comes a level of narcissism and ego. Now, whether or not you want to believe in the idea of that cloning and artificial intelligence is no different than homunculus, or homunculi, I should say, well, that's something you're going to have a conversation with your own religious beliefs and God. Because mankind has been playing God for quite some time. The only problem is we just don't have a say in it because the powers to be have already made their deals with the devils and the gods of this world and of the other worlds. Whether they are the gods, the old worlds, the new worlds, it's all the same. These concepts and ideas have been around for centuries, and they exemplify the very idea of what it means to be human. Whether you believe in the Anunnaki, whether you believe in God, I'm not here to tell you what to believe in. But no matter what creation story you adhere to, we are nothing more than homunculi in the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. If you've made it this far, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And until next time, stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.